Hey everybody, it's Houseplant time. Welcome to Plant Prescription, the official houseplant podcast from Costa Farms. As usual, you are joined by Michelle, our IPM manager. I'm Justin, a horticulturist here, and we love talking about plants. We hope you love listening about them. Today we're going to answer some questions, debunk a myth or two, and give you everything you need to know to be successful. How are you, Michelle?
I am doing well. It is gardening time. I think I said that last time too. That's all I'm thinking about nowadays, apparently. Um, I'm doing good. Fingers are, you know, getting full of dirt and getting stuff in the ground. It feels really good. How are you doing over there? Has it warmed up enough to dig in the dirt yet or no?
Oh, we can plant early spring stuff, but it's definitely not warm. Tropicals can't go outside yet.
Yeah. I just moved all mine out. For better or worse, I said,
Yeah.
you're going out. It's 40 degrees a couple of nights.
I
You're still going out. I'm
was at the
done.
garden center over the weekend. We don't even have our tropicals in yet.
No?
Nope.
Huh. Wow.
It's still
Well,
30s at night.
that's what you get for living over in Oregon.
Not complaining about it.
No, it's nice out there. It's pretty out there.
Uh, the great thing about houseplants is that you can have them anywhere. It doesn't matter your climate.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I've got I've got like 7 foot long philodendrons in this house. And cacti that probably need to go outside. Um, yeah, houseplants are you can really grow them anywhere. But uh, going off topic here. In the summer, are you one of those people who moves their houseplants outside in the summer, or do you just always keep them inside? Because I feel like there's two kinds of people out there. The people that bring them out and the people that leave them in.
What would you guess, Michelle? You know
You
me.
seem like the kind that brings them out to me.
Nope, I am far too lazy for that.
I was gonna say, but then again, you're always
No, I've too many. Um,
okay, yeah.
it's kind of a pain. And personally, I don't like knowing that I'm adding extra stress acclimating indoors in the fall and then acclimating outdoors in the spring. And I know they more than make up for it with all of the summer growth that they put on.
Yes.
But slow and steady wins the race, right?
Yeah, and then every time I tend to bring in a house plant from the outside, I always introduce something. But I kind of just gave it away. I do it anyway. I have too many plants, but there are certain ones that go outside every year, like Bird of Paradise. Those go outside every year, just because the explosive growth I get out of those is worth it.
I do move some plants in and out of my greenhouse.
Mm,
But that's mostly because like once summer comes, it's going to be like 105 in the greenhouse. And so the less I have to water in there, the better.
yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. Well, the ones that are out for me are out, and they're out for the summer. Good luck, guys.
I'm sure they'll be fine. I'm wishing lots of warm spring vibes on you.
Thank you very much. Yes, you as well.
Do you want to answer some questions?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Alrighty, number one. When repotting your plants, I always hear people talk about how you're supposed to spread out the roots. But doesn't that hurt the roots? Isn't that bad for your plant? Coming from Ben in Londonderry, Vermont.
You know, um, do you remember it was years ago? I think it was when we first met. I'm not going to age us. It was a while ago. Um, you were the one who told me to actually do that with the plants to kind of like not rip the plant's roots because that you don't want to rip them, but like kind of to tease the plant roots out when you up pot. And I had never done that. And you were the one who actually told me all about this. So I feel like you should answer this question because I learned it from you.
Well, so my philosophy is that it's a great idea, especially if you have a plant that's root bound.
Hmm.
Um, once plant roots start growing in a circle around the inside perimeter of a pot, they tend to stay growing that way. And so if you just plop your root ball out, put it in a new pot, add more soil around it, not necessarily going to see a lot of roots spreading out the way that they want to. The other thing that I like about breaking up the root ball a little bit is that you're basically pruning the roots. And while that might sound scary, the awesome thing about that is that whenever you're pruning a plant, you're stimulating more new growth. So you're kind of giving the roots a little jolt.
You know what? You're right. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But okay, just for clarification purposes, right? I am of the mindset where if a plant is rooted, right, it's rooted in a pot, but it's not like very rooted. There's still quite a bit of soil visible. And you don't see that round circling on the bottom of the pot. It's not really necessary to try to tease the roots apart.
No, I guess I would ask, why are you repotting then if it doesn't need to be repotted yet?
For the future. Also because I don't want my plants to get root bound and stressed.
Yeah.
And some of them are easier to repot when they're smaller because boy howdy, when they get bigger, wow. It can be challenging, Okay, rule of thumb with Monstera deliciosas, if they're manageable still at all, I will put them in their forever home, like giant 7+ gallon pot. And I mean, they don't need it yet, but I know the time that they do need it, they're going to be too big to repot. So, in my defense, that is why I do it sometimes. I'm thinking ahead.
I remember what may have been a couple of years ago, or may have been more than a couple of years ago, when we first had this conversation. You came back at me when you break up the root ball,
Yeah.
um, damaging the roots,
Yeah.
which is true.
Yeah.
Um, and instead of that being a positive because it's spurring new growth, you said, "Hey, you're creating lots of little entry
Yes.
wounds for disease."
Yes.
Um, So, that is something to think about. Although I refuted that by saying, unless you're really soaking your plants and there's a lot of saturation going on, you're not likely to see a lot of root rot from breaking the roots.
Technically, no. I will rebuttal though that there are some pathogens that are literally just present. They are just present pretty much everywhere. You can just assume that they are present, regardless of how quote unquote sterile your media is. Now, if you're using like a media with soil peat, coco coir, anything with like that soil kind of feeling to it, there's probably going to be something in there. Don't want to freak people out. I'm freaking people out though. But if you use like, I see it, a lot of people use leca, the clay aggregate balls. In my mind, that's like inorganic. If you use like an inorganic potting mix, well, you're going to have less pressure to an extent because they're not going to be there. But rebuttaling on you, they are always there. Like, yes, moisture management is important, but you have to be aware that like it's gonna be there. So
And
preventing
to rebuttal
stress.
your rebuttal, to re-rebuttal you, just because it's there doesn't mean that it's going to make your plant suffer. A good, healthy plant does a great job of defending itself. Um, that if that pathogen is there in the potting mix, before you repot, an entry wound is not necessarily likely to open the door to massive root rot and loss of the plant.
And to rebuttal your rebuttal and concede. I'm conceding here. Yes, that is why, a plant that is root bound is stressed. And so, in my mind, you want to not let it get overly root bound to that scenario where you are stressing it out because it will likely go through some heavy moisture swings. It'll go dry down faster. It'll like have less nutrients to absorb because there's just so much root mass and not enough nutrients to go around. My theory, I don't know that I'm not basing that on like scientific papers that I've read, but yes, I think that you should not wait until your plant is severely root bound.
Yeah, definitely
However,
don't wait until your plant is severely root bound. There's this nice zone where, okay, it's comfortably root bound.
mhm,
Now's a great time to repot it before it starts to get to that stress zone.
Remind me to send you a picture. I brought a plant to that point. And when you bring it to that point, there's no teasing the roots out because it's a brick of roots. Like there's no teasing them out.
Yeah,
That you've gone beyond.
I told you what happened to a Sansevieria that I had once, right?
That it busted the pot, right? Or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so root bound it broke a clay pot.
I
Yeah.
aspire to have a Sansevieria like that. That's such a oh gosh, that's such a cool story. I want to be that cool one day and have a Sansevieria that busts the pot. One last thing, I know that we're not talking about bugs in this, but it does kind of remind me of the army ants and the spiral, the death spiral. Have you heard of that?
No.
So, okay, so army ants will follow each other. That is just that they just follow the leader. That is how they hunt, survive, travel, yada yada. And if one of the ants like gets thrown off and all of a sudden starts to circle, all the other ants will follow it and they will just continue to circle and circle and circle. And they will eventually die doing that because they are programmed to just follow each other. And it's so horrible, but it's called death spiral. And I feel like when plants get to the point where they are spiraling hard like that and they're really root bound, it kind of reminds me of the death spiral because the plant also starts to go downhill when that happens.
It does.
Okay. I concede. You win.
Wasn't supposed to be a debate, but Ben, I hope you were able to
All
see
sides.
two, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And make the right decision for what you feel is for your plant.
Yes.
Question number 2. This comes from Aaron in Antlers, Oklahoma. Think my plants have scale insects on them. What should I do?
Ugh.
Michelle, our IPM manager, this one has your name written all over it.
Is it bad that like scale give me the heebie jeebies? Like all the things out there. Scale, just like, because
Do you think
I
they're
have,
worse than mealybug?
yeah, I
Oh, I
do.
find
I really
mealybug
do.
way heebie-jeebier.
Well, because scale, one time I had scale, and I mean, I probably somewhere still have a couple. Um, but I could not get rid of the scale, which is going to be a very sad resolution to this question. I could not get rid of it, and I ended up resorting to like desperate measures and trying to scrape the scale off the plant, and it was so gross because it's alive and you're just like scraping off like plant pimples. It was just not, it was gross. It grossed me out. So to this day, scale still gross me out. Um, I could not get rid of them. There are some systemic insecticides out there, but their life cycle is just so tricky to pin down. You could try the systemic insecticides.
What about
You
like
could
a mix of the systemic with alcohol and a cotton swab?
The alcohol and the cotton swab would definitely be a good thing to try. Um, but scale are really tricky because they're super tiny and they're really good at camouflage and it's pretty easy to miss them. So I think between those two methods, you'll probably keep your plants alive for a while. Now, that being said, it takes a lot of scale to really take a plant down. Um, it would take quite a lot of them to kill your plant. Um, and you could try that for a while, the alcohol systemic, but I don't want to guarantee that that will solve the problem entirely. It's probably going to be a continuous effort on your part to try to keep those levels down. And I would first and foremost get that away from your other plants because, like I said, they're very tiny and they're very good at camouflage and they get right down in the nooks and crannies that they're super easy to miss. And once you get them on one, if you get them on another one, I mean, it's just going to become really hard to manage that.
Compared to a pest like spider mite or mealybug, what
Mhm.
is the scale insect reproductive cycle? Are they as quick? Because
Mm,
I ask because I don't have a lot of scale experience. I did have a
mm-hmm,
scale infestation in my backyard in Florida.
mm-hmm.
And I always saw a few,
Yeah.
but it never felt like it exploded like a lot of other insect pests and arachnids like mites. See, I learned from you. Seem to.
I would agree with you. I think I don't know the answer, and I'm sure it's very species dependent. Because like a lot of hemiptera and a lot of arachnids and other things out there, there's so many species of each one of these things. So I think it really will be species and temperature dependent. Also, their host could have a big factor on how quickly they reproduce. Um, but overall, I would agree with you in a nutshell that scale don't seem to reproduce as quickly, which is why they don't, like I said, they don't really tend to like take down a plant at the speed that a two-spotted spider mite or an aphid would, particularly. Um, so, I mean, it is forgiving because your plant isn't going to like die tomorrow. But at the same time, it is really hard because it's just really hard to kill them. Now, mealybugs, I've got like, there's a couple of things out there that I know that work good for mealybugs, not perfectly, but when it comes to scale, it's just really hard. They're just completely different animals, intended.
And no beneficials that you would recommend to try to deal with
No.
a scale?
No. And I know a lot of people release like billions of ladybugs, which I'm not going to get on that soapbox today for like 10 scale. And in that scenario, sure, maybe it'll work just because of the sheer volume of them. But typically, there's nothing that jumps to mind. I know lacewing will nibble on things, but scale aren't really palatable to the majority of generalist predators out there. Um, I hate to be such a Debbie Downer. If it's, if you're in a better scenario, I got scale on my Albuca frizzle sizzle. It's like a plant that looks like a grass. It's got a lot of spiral things. And it kind of bunches in the base like an onion. And so they got in there and I could not get them out because the nooks and the crannies were just too tight in there. So I'm hoping maybe in your scenario, if your plant has more of like an open like habit, like an open shape, and you're able to get contact with all those, you could have much better luck than I did. But I'm so sorry. I would, you could do the alcohol systemic, remove it or take it away from your other plants, quarantine it, and I'm sure it will live a long, happy life, but it is going to require some extra effort on your part.
Excellent. Thank you, Michelle.
Sorry.
Yeah, plants don't always have an easy answer for everything.
And if I ever, we may revisit this one day. If something comes up and I think and I hear of a solution to scale, we'll make sure to address it again here because it does kind of make me sad to not have solutions. So I'm going to keep my ears and eyes open for that.
It could be fun if there's enough to have a breaking news section of the podcast in the future.
Right? Yeah, that would be nice. I thought you
Breaking
were going to
news,
say
miracle cure.
I thought you were going to say it'd be fun if we both got scale and tried to kill it. And I was like, no, that would not be fun. No,
No.
no, God. Okay. Thank God you didn't go there. Okay.
All right, third question of the day.
Yeah.
This one comes from Abby in Irvine, California. Okay, Costa, I see a lot of plants in ceramic pots that don't have drainage. So how in the heck are you supposed to water these things if they don't have a drainage hole?
Okay. I'm going to jump right in here. And I'm going to say that most of the time when I've seen plants in ceramic pots, those are actually okay, I know you're going to make fun of me because I'm going to say it wrong. Cash pots? Cash
That's how I say
pots?
it.
Yes. Okay. Whew, thank goodness. Those are actually the cash pots. Cash pots, oh gosh, which is a fancy way of saying there's a pot inside of that pot. So the white pot is normally what I see most of the time. And that is really big in the trending tropicals line, is that nice white pot. And inside of that, if you like lift the plant up, it's gonna be in like a black plastic pot with holes in that pot. And so, it's easier in that scenario just to take that black pot and put it under the sink, or, water it and let it drain and then put it back in. It's actually kind of really nice too. I like those pots sometimes because you can have it on a tabletop or on like a wood surface without having to worry about the the condensation of the pot damaging your furniture. So I kind of like the cash pots. But yeah, that's immediately what I thought of, was that scenario. There's a pot inside of a pot. Take the pot out and it's got drain holes, and then put it back in when you're done.
Okay, so jumping on something Michelle was saying about the pot within a pot, sometimes if there's like just the right amount of moisture, they can be really, really hard to get apart. And it might seem like there's not another pot in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, so to validate that, what you could do is you could slip the entire root ball out and look in and see if you see the black pot with the drainage holes sitting inside the ceramic pot. Now, sometimes you might have a ceramic pot that doesn't have another pot within it. For example, a lot of bonsai are grown right in their ceramic pots.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, it's the finger test is really your, or a moisture meter if you don't like the finger test. To physically probe for the proper amount of moisture and see, is your plant feeling a little wet? Is your plant feeling a little dry? Or is it just right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. The finger test. I'm sorry, I laughed. I've heard it before. I haven't heard it recently. Um, I would say, I have a couple of pots like that. I have a couple of plants, and it's trickier to water the ones without the drain holes, but it's not impossible. And if you don't like it, you could always repot it and then tease the roots out, or not, whatever you want to do. It's to be determined on the actual resolution of that one.
So Michelle, do you know why a fair number of houseplants are grown in the black grower pot that's dropped into a ceramic pot with no drainage?
No, no, why? Why?
Exactly the reason that you said, causing the condensation. Um, there have been a number of lawsuits where people didn't realize that the pot with the drain hole had a drain hole. They watered it, they ruined their furniture, and they blamed the
Um,
retailer or the grower.
okay. Yep. Yeah, that cash pot is nice. It definitely does protect your furniture.
You know,
Um,
and so yeah, to protect themselves, they came up with the idea of furniture friendly pots.
that's cool. That's really cool. And they're simple pots too. As soon as you said that, all I could think about was those white wavy pots, the ceramic
Yeah.
ones. That's all I can think about as soon as you said that. And those are so simple. I like how they just go with everything. Um, Interesting. I didn't know that.
So fun facts of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Misconception.
All right.
This is one that I've heard. I think I've heard it my entire career, and it may be something that's older than I am. And I have absolutely no understanding where it came from. And to be super honest, it skeeves the heck out of me.
Oh God. Oh, what is it?
Using mayonnaise is the best way to clean your plant leaves so they stay
Oh.
nice and shiny.
Ew. I mean, I've seen people do it. I've seen people do it, and I've seen the shiny leaves afterwards. Have you ever done it? Have you ever done the mayonnaise thing?
No.
Based on your reaction, you
Yeah.
probably haven't.
No, I don't even have mayonnaise in my house.
What? My question is, would like Miracle Whip work? Is that the same as mayonnaise? Like, is it just mayonnaise? I don't know. I've never tried it just because mayonnaise kind of skeeves me out as well. But I have seen people do it. Then I've seen the shiny leaves.
My
Now I
assumption
have.
is, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
My assumption is that it's the high fat content causing an oil layer that's giving you that shininess.
Oil layer. So are people like? when I think of wiping down leaves, I typically think of wiping down the tops, but I kind of also wipe down the bottom of the leaves sometimes. With that oil layer, do people do that? And I wonder if it damages the leaves because if there's a layer of oil on the bottom where the stomata are, would that interrupt respiration? Transpiration?
If
I don't
it
know.
clogs it, yeah, if it clogs the stomata, it could reduce the plant's efficiency. All right, so if you're curious what stomata are, these are basically pores on the plant leaf, mostly on the bottom, and they're how the leaves pull in carbon dioxide and how they release water vapor as part of their, to put it simply, breathing process. So
Okay.
definitely don't want to be clogging those up.
Yeah, no, 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 no. Um, Now that being said, I've seen it and I've never seen the 1 month after what the plant looked like. So I know right after I've seen people do it and it is shiny. Um, but that being said, I have also just taken a damp washcloth and paper towel and got a very similar effect.
So if you are an eater of mayonnaise, you should try it and report back on the podcast, Michelle.
Yeah, well, I don't eat mayonnaise. I told you mayonnaise skeeves me out too. I don't have any. I have a little bit for those tomato sandwiches in the summer or cucumber tomato sandwiches, and that is it. That's the only thing I use it for. So, listeners out there who eat mayonnaise, because apparently both Justin and I are just like lacking on the mayonnaise front. Um, report back. We are curious to see what it looks like after a couple of months. Neither of us have done it personally. It does work. I've seen it look shiny, but again, I mean, if you don't have mayonnaise, Justin, um, water in a paper towel also works. Oh, hey, have you tried anything else to shine your leaves, or have you just done the
I
water and paper
have.
towel? What else have you done?
No, so if you have leaves that have like a lot of hard water or fertilizer stains,
Yes.
you know, a vinegar solution where it's like 5% vinegar. So,
Okay.
um, really, 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 really low concentration of vinegar.
Yeah.
I believe it's the acidity will help dissolve the salt buildup so that your
Makes
leaves
sense.
come clean. But
That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
it's really important to do the low concentration because vinegar is used commercially as an herbicide.
Yeah. As soon as you said vinegar, I was like, huh? What? So like a very like a splash. Do you measure it or do you just kind of eyeball it?
Um, so I'm trying to think the last time I did it. I am guessing that I eyeballed it
Okay.
because yeah, I wouldn't have done enough to have something that I would measure. Like, doing like a quarter teaspoon of vinegar and then 20 teaspoons of water is just more time consuming than
Well,
I
you
can
wouldn't.
imagine
You
myself having investing.
wouldn't do teaspoons. You would do a conversion, Justin. Like how many teaspoons in a cup? You wouldn't just measure out 20 teaspoons of water. Or would you?
Well,
I
no,
don't know. I mean,
no, but I
what
mean,
you do with your time is what your time.
right, right, right. But like if you only need a small amount
Okay.
and you're basically using a quarter of a teaspoon of vinegar, you're not gonna, you know, you're not probably not gonna have a measurable amount in your measuring cup, you know?
No, no. A
You know,
splash will do ya then.
exactly.
Yep. I
So
love that old
there you
a
go. That's
splash.
what you get for trying to make fun of me.
Ah, okay. All right, Justin, you win.
Thank you.
Is
I like
that
winning.
it for today? Did we that flew by?
Do you want to share any plan updates?
Um uh yeah.
If you don't, I can.
No, okay, you go because I've got some things in my mind that I'm thinking of outside. You go first though. I've actually got a question for you. You're up.
Okay. So I keep a couple of my houseplants in my greenhouse,
Yes.
and my greenhouse is pretty full. And sometimes accidents happen. And unfortunately, my golden goddess philodendron was subject to one of those
Oh,
accidents where like it fell off the shelf it was on. And because there are so many other plants around it, I didn't notice. And the place that it had fallen tends to accumulate some water. And so when I noticed it, it had pretty much rotted out.
oh
Um,
no. Ah,
But the good
sorry,
news, that the
Justin.
happiness of the plant update, is that I put it back where it belongs, made sure it was safe, and it is sprouting new growth.
I was gonna say in that scenario, maybe take a emergency last resort cutting,
Now
last ditch attempt
the
cutting.
cuttings were gone.
Oh
No,
God.
yeah, it was
Ugh.
rough,
Ugh.
but there is this bright little chartreuse bump that's starting to emerge from what's left of the I don't know, trunk. Guess not a trunk of the
Them?
vine. Yeah, of the stem.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I have hope.
Good. Yeah, we've all done it. We've all forgotten, lost. We've all lost plants, forgotten them completely. Okay, I have a question for you, Justin.
Yes.
I recently got some, I think they're little bananas.
Okay.
Like I I believe they're exotic angels
Yeah,
bananas.
yep, variety Tropicana.
Okay, that does not sound like a cold hardy variety to me.
Definitely not.
Okay. So, okay, thank you. You just saved many bananas. Um, I was going to tell you my plant news is that I was able to get a giant bulb of a cold hardy banana. Yes, cold hardy bananas are a thing, and it is
You
the
know,
coolest thing in the world.
that is one of
Um,
my favorite botanical names to say.
what is it? What's the botanical
Musa
name?
basjoo.
Musa what? Musa,
Musa
Musa,
basjoo.
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 Okay. Okay. I know Musa, Musa.
Yeah.
I call it Musa, but what
Okay.
anyway, so I put put a little bleep out there and I was like, hey, I'm looking for a cold hardy banana to put in my landscape because I really want bananas every year in the summer. I think it'd be super cool because I'm in North Carolina, not Florida. Um,
Wait, are
and
you
so
talking plants or fruits that you want?
yeah.
Okay, good. Because the cold hardy plant does not produce an edible fruit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
assumed I would never get fruit from it. I thought that it was because of the timeline that it wouldn't have enough time to ripen in the summer. I didn't buy it. I wasn't trying to get it for the fruit. I was trying to get it for the foliage. So I was going to put that giant bulb in the ground this weekend. It's already sprouting and it's sitting on my
Nice.
dining table and it's sprouting. And this is like a 10-pound bowling ball bulb. And I was gonna put the other bananas with it, just why not? And now I will not. Thank you. It's so hard to tell if a banana is cold hardy or not because they all look very similar.
True. Although chances are, if it's a cold hardy one, it's going to be labeled that way.
Mm, very true. I was just so optimistic. I was hopeful, you know. But thank you for saving many bananas. They thank you as well.
You see a fair amount of them here in Oregon. Um, you
Huh.
know, because like you were zone 8. And it is, huh? Oh, like you were zone 7.
You're not. You just said you were zone eight.
No. Well,
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
So technically I am zone 7 because
Mm-hmm.
of my elevation, but when I
Mm-hmm.
go down the hill into town, that's zone 8. Weird thing about
Ah.
living in the West. So yes, I can kind of claim both. I
Mm-hmm.
technically live on zone 7, but my surrounding area is zone 8.
So we are twinning then.
Mhm.
Thousands of
And
miles apart,
yeah,
but still twinning.
and you tend to see a lot of them in town. And even still, like when I'm not thinking about it, and then all of a sudden out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, there's a 6 foot tall banana. Huh.
I know. You can't ignore them. They're
No,
just
they're
so cool.
magnificent.
Yeah, especially when you see them in landscapes that are temperate.
Yep. And that hardy calla also surprises me.
I've got some callas popping up and some of them are not popping up, and it's very
Yeah.
disappointing. I thought that they were all the same, but I guess they're not. So I do like the hardy callas. Those are cool. It's kind of a flip of the coin, I guess, in my little area here. All right. Well, I think that's all we got. We're not going to bore you with any more banana canna talk. We'll save that for off air because we've got a lot to catch up on the banana cannas. Banana cannas. Somebody should invent that. I'm just saying, somebody should breed a banana canna. Just putting it out there in the
Yeah.
universe.
Manifest it. It will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for listening today. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you learned a little bit. And as always, if you have any plant questions you'd like us to answer, drop us an email at questions@costafarms.com. Direct message us on Facebook or Instagram, or drop a note on YouTube. Happy gardening.
Bye.